saying it. And I'm saying it.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
No, just the bride.
I actually wanted to start with the smudge because what does that do for you as an actress? That was such a choice, and it's such a it's instant behind you. It's instantly iconic. It's something we've never really seen before done in that way. So when you looked in the mirror, how did that inform your character?
I think it gave me a certain kind of disobedience and mischief, and also the very nature of like the expression of this woman, the expression of Mary Shelley can't help but come out and make its mark on the world, that it's overflowing. There's so much that this woman needs to say and needs to express that it's like pouring out of her and it looks, and it's beautiful.
So
you know,
beautiful.
It's something that is like, you can't help but look at and feel like, what is that? You know, what is this woman? And so I had a lot of fun getting ready in the morning.
I think it's going to become a thing too, where it's girls and women are going to start. That's going to be like the mark. For you, and at the beginning of the film, I love that it opens saying Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein on a dare. So what did you dare to do as a director with this film? What is something that you did that you felt was particularly daring for yourself and challenging yourself?
I mean, to be honest with you, just making it was kind of a dare to myself. You know, I was terrified every day. I think because I was walking in new territory, I was really risking saying something new and saying it in a way I think that hadn't been said before, that and making my way as I went, kind of hacking through a like a rainforest. And we had the script, which was, I think, a major map. But actually, even the script was terrifying, although less so. Production, I feel like, was a kind of dare to myself. Yeah, I do.
It feels like a dare watching it in a sense, because it is so incredibly original. I think that's what makes it so captivating. I read something that you said about you and Christian were like greyhounds being let out of a cage, which I absolutely love this quote. So, I mean, one of the words that comes up for me with this film is inhibition. And so can you sort of describe that feeling? First of all, having a partner like Christian, but that feeling of being totally like unleashing yourself, and what that does for you as a performer, and what does that mean to you, that word greyhound? And
well, I think that was part of the, like, for me anyway, the job description is like, how much of yourself can you really show, and how much of it can it be metabolized and palatable, and who's going to love all of me? And how much can I really be brave to let that be seen?
That was the job description.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, how much of yourself can you bring?
Yeah.
But with the protection of this character is very, very different than you.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, you know, a greyhound when it comes out of the cage has a destination it's trying to get to. You know, it's a kind of primal energy that it's coming out in. It doesn't know it's racing against another dog. It's just like running, isn't it? And it's like, it just feels like it's like a laser beam, those greyhounds. And but what was so interesting about this is these are two greyhounds that actually were given the opportunity to release their primal passion, their primal mind, their primal body, and commune together in a way and find each other in that primal force, and not to kind of clip anything around that. And when you stand opposite Christian Bale, and he's also like moving in the same stratosphere. I mean, I remember our first ever day shooting, we did a dance sequence. It was like a pre-shoot. It definitely, we've been cooking this in our minds and bodies, me anyway, for nearly a year with you. And that moment when you could release that energy and also contain it with each other was, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of my job to contain it and to make sure that these wild greyhounds, and as you say, who have a clear destination, it's not like you guys are like just feral. They're incredibly intelligent actors, really crafted, but who are also in touch with the feral and the wild. But it's my job to make sure that they're okay, that they're safe, and that it's all in service of something.
I love that he is also obsessed with Ronnie Reed, a movie star he loves and goes to see his films.
Right.
Who's the Ronnie Reed, or what is the film for each of you that you've seen the most? That you think you've seen the most, either in the theater?
Okay,
or...
I have one. Do you have one?
You go, yeah.
Okay. I found that without even meaning to, not doing it as a practice or something, just like happened to be like, oh, I think I should watch this. I would watch Silkwood, Meryl Streep, Mike Nichols movie, before I would start acting in something. And after I'd seen it about 3 times, I was like, I watch this every time before I start working. And that's one. I've seen other movies many times, like lots of musicals with my brother and stuff when we were kids, or like Pretty Woman or something. I don't know. Jake and I had that on VHS and just watched it tons of times, or Point Break or something. But one that really is like Ronnie Reed for me is Silkwood.
I mean, in my kind of zeitgeist, is that the right word? Of that is Giulietta Mazzina, who's Fellini's muse, and she's such a beautiful like dancer in film, of her soul, and she lives on that like such a vulnerable precipice of life where you might fall off, but there's hope and there's need and mischief, and she does like, you feel like there's the underworld and the topside world, and she's just kind of tightrope walking along that. And to have that lightness on that is, I always love watching her, and she gives me space. That's what I feel like when I watch her. She gives me like a way to breathe.
Wow, beautiful answers. I felt like, I can't believe you went from this straight into Hamnet. How did you do it?
I dyed my bleached eyebrows back brown. Actually, it was a really great transition, to be honest. I was cracked wide open from this experience. I was so in my body. I was brave, and to kind of bring all that elemental energy into Agnes and distill it down to something that was potent in motherhood, while keeping my heart open. It was a gift. I don't know if it would have been what it was if I hadn't been on this journey before, and vice versa.
What do you want with a dead girl? I'm the same. Born from the dead. I am a monster.
First thing I wanted to talk about was Jessie had made a statement that the two of you acting together, you're so beautifully matched. It was like letting 2 greyhounds out of a kennel.
Right, going after that little rabbit, that poor little rabbit, tearing something to pieces.
Yeah, do you concur?
It feels like that. Yeah. No, when it's good, it's good, You're racing together, you've got a partner. You can go fast, you can go slow, but you're tearing something up, and you do feel like sort of predators, and definitely in this. And, I think that all the best people are maniacs a little bit. And, when I get going, and certainly when she gets going, we're maniacs for what we do.
All the best people
I love
are
that.
maniacs. That is one of the best quotes I've heard in a very long time. I heard you said you love humiliating yourself, and that's just as good. Can you sort of talk about that aspect in this film, how that applies to this film?
The mania or the
Both,
humiliation?
They're
both right there. I just feel like it's there in every single performance that you want to do. I admire people who just kind of want to stand up and give it a shot, even if everyone laughs them out of the room. I think that there's also something very interesting when someone's right on the verge of humiliation or going right over that edge as well. That makes you feel alive, in many ways. And also, if you can deal with that, you can deal with a lot. So I've done that a lot. I've humiliated myself a lot in my life, and I don't mind it, anymore. It makes you really remember your day. Your days don't drift off and become, endless repetitions. And the mania is just one in which, you're chasing something, right? You're chasing something in a manic fashion, and that's what these characters are doing, and that's what I'm doing in choosing, making movies, and especially at this time when it's sort of a toss-up about how long are we going to be able to keep making, proper cinema.
Yeah, fingers crossed that it's going to keep going.
But you can't accept fingers crossed. You got to go for it. That's where
right.
the mania comes from. You got to be manic about actually pursuing it and trying to do something original. Bold and brave, just like this movie is, so that people might just consider, come out to the theaters again. Do it. It's worth it.
There's so much electricity. I feel like there's electricity literally, but then in between the two of you. So when you've obviously done prosthetics before, you've obviously done like a lot of makeup. For you, when you saw yourself, because you've played quote unquote characters that we would call monsters,
right.
But this guy is actually a monster on the outside, but not so much on the inside.
No, he's quite an innocent on the inside. And, I do prosthetics again and again just because I've got a real short-term memory, so I forget how bloody painful and how much patience you need. It's like my wife's told me about pregnancy, that the species keeps going because women forget how uncomfortable it all is and painful. So reducing that discomfort and pain a great deal to just sitting in a chair for a long time and doing the prosthetics. But it's sort of, it's like you try to treat it like a meditation, in many ways. And in this movie, more than I think any other, I wasn't able to transform myself physically as much. I can't grow, I can't create, a sort of a off-center skull, etc. So I rely and credit, the makeup artist as much with creating Frank as I did.
Yeah. When you looked in the mirror as Frank, what did you see?
I saw someone capable of absolutely destroying anything that he wanted, of just tearing a house down, of just ripping heads off, but someone who was actually quite a childlike innocent in all of that. For all of the horrendous crimes he's committed in the past, he committed them when he was just a man-child who knew nothing. And a desperate romantic as well.
Well, speaking of the romantic part, I think my absolute favorite moment in the film is when you see her for the first time animated, because the look on your face is bewilderment, fascination, and it's all very subtle, but it's all there. So wondering when you were looking at her in character, I like that you're smiling about this, what was coming up for you? Because that love aspect, I mean, it was so tender and beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that. Yeah, well, this is a man who's been, by himself for well over 100 years, and he's finally getting to see that perhaps he might have somebody who he can share moments with, who he can just sit on a log with, and maybe if he's bold enough, maybe he can put his arm around her, maybe they can hold hands, or something, but just somebody he can look at occasionally and know that he's got a friend, which he's never had in his life before. So it's a remarkable moment for him of seeing this happen, but also witnessing what happened to him, many years earlier, but knowing that this time he's going to treat his creation with love, whereas he was completely abandoned, by his father. But then he has no idea of the life and the fantastic craziness and chaos and crazy purpose and intent and electrification that he's going to get from the bride.
I love that he is also obsessed with Ronnie Reed, this quintessential movie star.
Yeah.
Your character, Frank, goes to see Ronnie in many different times in the theater.
Yeah.
For you, what is that movie that you've seen the most number of times by choice, that you've gone either to the theater or you keep revisiting, or a couple of movies?
There are quite a lot of them. There are certainly books that I've read multiple times. Obviously music, listening to endlessly. With movies, as I say, in almost everything, Beverly Hills Ninja, Chris Farley's fantastic. The movie Naked was really something for me. I always remember as well enjoying Christmas time in England. I think it was even before Channel 4 existed, 3 channels, going down, watching Ben-Hur, creeping downstairs when everyone was asleep and watching Ben-Hur multiple times, and probably Team America as well.
And do you have a Ronnie Reed? Is there somebody for you that?
I don't really have that so much. The only version I could ever compare, which ended up with the opposite result, was that my uncle really loved Steve McQueen. And I mean, who doesn't? And so I would watch a lot of Steve McQueen movies, but all that ended in was me looking and saying, oh God, I can never even hope to be like Steve McQueen. So it was just sort of dashing all those dreams and me thinking, well, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do something very different from him, because no hope in hell that I could be that cool, you know?
Just if you could just sort of talk about Maggie. I mean, you go way back. You've worked together, obviously, in The Dark Knight, and having her direct you. This is her second feature, and you've called this movie real cinema. Sort of explain
It is
what
real
you mean by
cinema,
that.
you know, and she's great. She's bold. She's a brilliant director, writer. She comes at it from an actor's point of view, so she's so great at communicating what she wants and needs, and also giving you the freedom to create yourself. She is unafraid of saying, I don't know, what do you think? And so she gets the best out of her crew and out of her actors as well, because we all feel like we have an ownership in it as well, a real stake in it. You know, she's doing wonderful things with IMAX, you know, precisely because of that reason, that she didn't know much about it. So she started creating things that nobody else really did, because it's not how it's meant to be used. And I think she's a true original. I think she's going to be really exciting. I think both her and Jessie are kind of absolute fiery talents who are going to shake up filmmaking.
Everybody dance! Everybody sing! Everybody move!
So first of all, this is about the most unconventional story about Frankenstein there could be. In terms of Frankenstein's monster is called Frank. We also have a Bride of Frankenstein that speaks. What about this film? Like, how would you describe it as being sort of something we haven't seen before, even though we've seen the story?
I mean, it is something you've never seen before, but it's also like, at its core, I think because I was obviously around it from the beginning to now, it's always been this love story that, of course, since my wife wrote it and is directing it, feels very connected to my own love story with her.
Wow.
And I think like this idea that what these two need to do in order to be the lovers through time that they could be is for him to tell the truth, is for them to come together in like their own reality, you know? And that's kind of always been the amazing thing about the movie to me is, and also my character, you know, these guys wrestling with coming clean, you know? And when they do, you can tell this to all the men out there, when you do come clean about whatever you've done, then there's like love on the other side, you know?
What a beautiful answer. I love that your character feels like a throwback to me, to like actresses of the 50s, 60s. There's a humor to her. There's a quirkiness to her. Did you think about that at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, that I loved every single aspect of this movie. But for me, the scenes that we have together that are more comedy and reminds me more the comedies of the 30s and 40s, and to be able to go back to study those films again, knowing that you have a reason to study them again because you're going to be able to do that. And it's a very particular way of speaking and a very particular rhythm. And that was my favorite thing to do with this character, and also what she represents, and also the fact that she's like the voice of so many women's. It was very emotional almost to do, you know, like even the scene where I asked him for the first time, probably, I asked him, I want my name on this case because I'm the one solving the case and he's eating sandwiches. And I want my name. And it's so hard to ask the question. And I know that he's going to say no, because he's up against an entire society that has almost never seen a woman detective. Like, it's like seeing an alien. So that scene is very, very special for me to do.
Yeah, another beautiful answer. I love that that Frank loves Ronnie Reed. And has such a passion for Ronnie Reed. So actually, I'm asking everybody today, what is that movie or that person who is your Ronnie Reed, or that film? But maybe for you, what is one of the older films that you went back and revisited that stood out to you? Or what is the movie that you think you've seen the most?
Any movie from Almodóvar, from Pedro Almodóvar. Because my Ronnie Reed in terms of actor would be Meryl Streep. And she's always been amazing every time I've met her. I love her. And in terms of a director who changed my life in so many ways is Almodóvar. Because seeing his movies made me decide to look for an agent, to go to a theater school. And I've seen his movies so many times. Like I really study everything he does.
Wow.
And he's one of my closest friends on
Wow,
top of that.
beautiful.
So-
What about you?
And I have so many Ronnie Reeds, but actually, my wife and I just worked with one of them. So one of my very first, when I was in St. Louis in school, one of my very first acting teachers was Ellen Burstyn. She just came through with the Actor Studio program and taught for a couple of weeks. And I just got to see her again. She's, 94, 93, something. And I got to say, thank you. She was like one of the first people that ever saw me act. I was just a 19-year-old at school who had never acted before. And I remember a lot of the things that she told me that day. And so I got the opportunity recently to thank her. And she said, I'm glad I could have been of service.
How beautiful. How
Yeah.
Oh,
amazing.
heck
Full
yeah.
circle moment.
For sure.
My goodness. Having this be sort of a family affair, your children were on set. These are your brother-in-law, these are longtime friends.
Yeah.
I even heard and the whole vibe of the two leads is that they're very unhinged. And it sounds like on set it was like that. I mean, I heard about Christian doing primal screams in his dressing room. I don't know if you were a part of it.
No,
if
we
you
just did
partook
it
in
today before an interview. We were all screaming.
You did?
Christian was like, we have to do it. It's always good. That always works.
Yeah.
I guess it gets everything out, right?
Yeah.
Do you recommend it in life?
Yes, yes.
A lot of
Sure.
times, especially on bigger movies that
Yeah.
I've been on, everyone gets a little tighter because of the
Okay.
amount of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that everybody likes the lead, right? It's
Yeah.
so important that everybody likes this character. Everybody feels for this one. And there was just none of that in the making of this. So it was like, we don't beg for the audience's sympathy.
Mm.
The characters just are themselves in all of their, positives and negatives.
And I love that you said this is the perfect first date movie. Why do you think that is?
I think because it is an epic, epic love story. And also because I think the idea that no real relationship can begin when there isn't a foundation of truth, And it's not about being perfect, but it's about owning up to the imperfections,
Yeah, so be who you are on the first date. Let them see everything, right?
Well, maybe pace it out a little bit if
Yeah.
there's a lot to get through.
Yeah.